Sometimes people ask, why start with education as part of a humanitarian response when food hasn't been distributed to the full population, or a water supply, a clean water supply isn't available? Well, my answer to that would be a school can be an environment that is protective for children and for their families to know that children are in a safe place.
Non, moi beaucoup aller à l'école, mais ça fait m'était après année ça m'avait examen, mais problème de terre là devait passer pour jusqu'au nya m'gai plus que 4 mois m'pas jamais aller à l'école, mais si l'école t'a ouvert pour nya pour moi t'a bon parce que examen année ça était très facile pour moi.
It is an environment where they can learn about the threats that they're facing and how to cope with them, and at times bring that information back to families and to their community. The longer that children are out of school, the less likely they are to ever return.
Nous expliquer au tremblement de terre c'est une faille qui était faite en bataille, ça veut dire tout côté ça a passé plusieurs pays déjà. Ça veut dire que ça va faire nous camper l'école, pour nous continuer pour nous faire l'éducation et nous expliquer tout ça tremblement de terre là, pour ne pas peur ni pour pas craindre. Nous expliquer tous les tremblements de terre là, si c'est un dans cas il prend ça au café, pour un mal va t'arriver.
In many communities around the world, the school is at the centre of the community physically. It's also a place that offers opportunity for all sorts of other community activities. And sometimes we in UNICEF use the school as the focus of the community to help us deliver other services, health-related services, such as deworming activities, vitamin supplementation, nutrition gardens, etc.
Children and their families prioritise education almost above anything else in an emergency situation. In a situation, for example, like Pakistan, a colleague who was actually working on shelter, not on education, visited a small village in the very early weeks after a massive earthquake in 2005. When they asked the community what was their priority, what did they need help with from the international community, he was told that their priority was a mosque and a school, and that's what they wanted built.
In terms of emergency response, we would be seriously missing a trick if we didn't incorporate education into our plans. Setting up educational spaces provides a safe place for children to learn and to play, and also so that their family and their parents can leave the children in that safe place so they can get on with rebuilding their lives, whether that be to find and bury their dead, to stand in queues for food and tents and other relief items, or to enrol in cash for work programmes. Education should be part of a humanitarian master plan, all fitting together to respond to all the needs of the emergency.
In an emergency, we try to work together with governments, with the Ministry of Education, and with a number of other actors to make sure that education is available. We do that through the establishment of an education cluster. For example, in Haiti, the education cluster was established following the earthquake, and they conducted a joint assessment looking at what were the education needs in a particular area, and have come together on appealing for funds, on identifying different areas of work, and on creating a plan of action to better support education in Haiti.
This approach provides us with an opportunity to get people who share common goals and vision for education for children to work closer together and to build based on the different capacities of the different organisations.
A huge amount has been achieved in the last 10 years to help ensure that children and youth affected by crisis have access to education in emergencies. For example, 10 years ago, we didn't have the INEE minimum standards, the global tool to ensure the quality and accountability of educational provision in emergencies.
Well, when there's been a major crisis like an earthquake or even a war situation that has damaged infrastructure, often schools are affected as much or more than other buildings.
Mais comment l'école là, l'étoile de la l'église là est tombée, mais ça l'informatique là pas dire casé, c'est bagay qui t'en donne qui t'est casé avec l'école là qui t'est casé par les.
Non, l'école là pas reconstruire, on va mettre temps pour nous. Et puis ça, le 6e année, elle fait.
Setting up temporary schools, setting up tents, setting up simple structures where children can come and learn is a relatively quick and cheap option that can get children back into school as soon as possible and back learning.
We typically use tented classrooms, and these in fact can be erected within half a day. Depending on the situation, and sometimes where we find people have been displaced to locations where they might be there for longer periods other than weeks, we sometimes go to a higher level of temporary classroom. And this might be a classroom that's constructed using local materials, straw or grass, with a grass roof even, or sometimes grass walls with a corrugated iron roof.
Okay, yes.
One of the common responses that as humanitarians we often would do in an emergency is something called a child-friendly space. And this is a space where children can have an opportunity to play, to sing, dance, draw, and really provide a safe space for them to use creative outlets to deal with the crisis that they've gone through.
Child-friendly spaces can offer additional services to carers for children who need to understand how to recognise trauma-affected behaviours, etc.
Yo te ban nou informasyon sou tremblement de terre. Yo te di nou kon sa, depi nou ta nan l'école là, ta senti ba là, depi c'est pas en les béton nou ta ici, en les béton taillé, nou ta porté en bas en table. Si l'autre élève ta était sur la rue, nou ta campo bien au coucher dans la rue.
The education system has a huge role to play in disaster risk reduction for any community or country. In Haiti, for example, we're not only working with teachers to ensure that children know what to do if another emergency were to happen, if an earthquake, a flood or storm were to occur, but also looking at the bigger structures, the actual construction of schools, so that the schools that are being rebuilt in Haiti now are constructed in a way that's safe, that will withstand other emergencies or other natural disasters.
This whole thing gonna tie the whole building together all the way to the concrete foundation, which in case of hurricane or earthquake, I mean, it might shake, but it's not really gonna collapse because it's all tied in as one.
Disaster risk strategies can be integrated into the curriculum, and some obvious ones to think about might be where children live on floodplains, for example. You can do, and it's often done, swimming lessons are provided for children. And then you can actively practice this in the classroom so it becomes a matter of form.
We won't be able to achieve the Millennium Development Goal of universal primary education by 2015 unless we reach the millions of children and youth affected by emergencies, by natural disasters, by conflict around the world. Unless they have access to education, we're not going to achieve that goal.
Obviously, there are constraints when responding to emergencies, and it takes time to build up the systems, the infrastructure to get all children back into school. I think at the end of the day, we will always have in our mind that we will work towards the achievement of getting all children into school.
Children have a right to education, and whether the world around them is in crisis or not, that their right doesn't end, and thus schools really do need to reopen and be there as a cornerstone of the community as quickly as possible after a crisis.